They thought he was just another easy target, a quiet man sitting alone in a diner. But when the bikers pushed too far, they learned the hard way that some battles are over before they even begin. The wind had a cold edge that afternoon as Darius pulled his truck into the gravel parking lot of Earl's Diner, a small, worn-out spot off Route 66 where time seemed to stand still and strangers were met with silence. The faded, open sign buzzed weakly against the dusty glass, flickering just enough to prove the place was still alive. A lonely gas station stood nearby, its pumps rusted and forgotten. Darius turned off the engine, took a slow breath, and stepped out with his wallet and cap in hand. Inside, it was exactly what he expected: checkered floors, torn vinyl booths, and a jukebox that hadn't played music in decades. The air smelled like burnt coffee and old grease. A tired waitress wiped down a counter that was already clean, mumbling to the cook behind her. When Darius walked in, the bell over the door jingled loud enough to turn heads. People looked up, but no one smiled. No one said a word. Just quiet, heavy stares that said he didn't belong. In the corner, a group of bikers sat in leather vests and dark glasses, their laughter dying the moment he entered. Darius didn't care. He adjusted his cap and took a booth near the window, always where he could see the exit. Old habits die hard. The waitress came over, her pen tapping nervously. "What'll it be?" she asked flatly. "Cheeseburger and fries," Darius replied. "And coffee black." She nodded quickly, eyes flicking toward the bikers who were watching him closely. Darius didn't look their way. He just sat still, tracing the rim of his cup as the room grew tense around him. One of the bikers, a big man with a thick beard and tattooed knuckles, leaned back in his chair and spoke loud enough for everyone to hear. "Well, would you look at that? We got ourselves a tourist." The others laughed. Darius ignored him. The man tried again. "Hey, buddy, you deaf or just rude?" The waitress returned with his coffee, her hand shaking a little as she set it down. Darius gave her a faint smile. "Thanks," he said softly. It wasn't her problem, and she left quickly. He took a sip of his coffee. Didn't look up. Didn't need to. He could feel every eye in the diner on him. The air felt heavy, the silence sharp. The bikers stopped pretending to mind their business. "Maybe he's just shy," the bearded man said with a grin. "Or maybe he's lost. Not much for his kind out here." The group laughed again, cruel and low. Darius stayed calm. He didn't move, didn't flinch, just another slow sip of coffee, as if he hadn't heard a thing. His calm made them angrier. A chair scraped the floor as the bearded man stood up, his boots thudding as he walked closer. The others leaned back, waiting for a show. The waitress froze behind the counter, eyes wide. The man stopped beside Darius's booth, close enough that Darius could smell the smoke and sweat. "Hey, I'm talking to you, boy." The word hit like a slap, harsh and deliberate. Darius didn't move. He set his coffee down gently, then looked up for the first time. "Something I can help you with?" he said quietly. His voice was calm and steady. The question wasn't angry or loud, it was polite. But the way he said it made the biker stop for a moment. Beard man narrowed his eyes. "You're sitting where you don't belong. Don't you know how things work around here?" Behind him, the other bikers laughed. One with stringy hair shouted, "Show him, Travis. Teach him some manners." Travis, the perfect name for a man who needed to prove himself. Darius took a quiet breath. "I'm just here for lunch," he said softly. That calm answer made Travis even angrier. He slammed his fist on the table, making the salt shaker rattle. "I don't think you heard me, friend." Darius looked up slowly, meeting Travis's eyes. Something changed in that moment. There was no fear, no anger, just stillness. The kind that made people nervous. "Back off," Darius said quietly. Not a threat, not a plea, just a statement. Travis snorted, pretending he wasn't bothered. "Or what?" The diner went silent. Even the cook stopped moving. "You're gonna learn some respect today," Travis growled. He reached to grab Darius's collar, but Darius moved fast, catching his wrist midair. His grip was firm, unshakable. The biker froze, surprised. "Don't," Darius said calmly, his voice now carrying a warning. Travis pulled his arm free and stepped back, trying to look tough. "Think you're strong, huh?" he said, flexing his hand. "We'll see about that. Get up, boys." Chairs scraped the floor as 5 bikers stood up, cracking their knuckles. Darius stayed seated, still calm. The waitress trembled and reached for the phone. "Don't," she whispered, but Travis glared at her. "Put it down," he barked, and she froze. Travis turned back to Darius. You got two choices, pal. Walk out that door, or we take this outside. Darius set his coffee down gently. I'd rather finish my lunch, he said. Travis grinned. Fine. We'll do it here. The bikers surrounded the booth, thinking they had him trapped. The diner went quiet again, everyone frozen. Travis cracked his knuckles. Last chance, tough guy? Walk out before we put you down. Darius didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared. That calmness made Travis lose control. You just don't get it, he shouted and lunged. Time seemed to slow. Darius moved smoothly, sliding out of the booth. He caught Travis's wrist mid-swing, twisted it, and slammed him into the table. The sound echoed through the diner. Travis dropped to the floor, groaning. Darius turned to the others. His voice stayed soft. You don't want this. But the wiry man with stringy hair charged anyway, yelling as he swung. Darius stepped aside easily, calm and effortless, like water moving around a rock. Darius drove his elbow into the man's stomach. The biker gasped and folded over as Darius used his weight to send him crashing into a chair. 2 down. The last 3 moved in together now, realizing this wasn't a normal fight. Panic started to replace their confidence, but it was too late. The biggest one grabbed Darius's shoulder, a mistake. Darius turned fast, locked his arm, and swept his legs out from under him. The man hit the floor hard. Darius pressed a knee into his back. Stay down, he said quietly. The man froze, gasping. 3 down. Another came from behind with a chair. The move was messy, desperate. Darius ducked, grabbed the chair, and pulled it out of his hands. The biker stumbled, and Darius shoved him into a booth. He collapsed in a heap. 4 down. The last one stood frozen, eyes wide. He looked around at his friends on the ground, then at Darius, calm, steady, not even sweating. Darius tilted his head slightly. You done? The biker swallowed, then turned and ran. The bell over the door rang as he bolted outside. 5 down. The diner went silent. Darius let out a breath and fixed his cap. The bikers groaned on the floor, too weak to get up. Travis lifted his head, staring in disbelief. Darius looked at him. I told you to back off, he said softly. The room stayed still. The waitress stood behind the counter, her hand frozen on the phone. The cook peeked from the kitchen, eyes wide. Darius stood up straight, calm as ever, like nothing had happened. Travis groaned, pushing himself halfway up. Who the hell are you? He asked. Darius looked down at him. Just a guy getting lunch, he said quietly. You ain't normal, Travis muttered. Darius looked around. The people weren't scared, they were amazed. He sighed. You don't want to know. Another biker coughed from the floor. You military or something? Darius didn't answer. He turned back to his booth. His burger and fries were still there. Coffee half full. He sat down, picked up a fry, and took a bite like nothing happened. The waitress finally spoke. Sir, are you okay? Darius gave her a small smile. I'm fine, ma'am. She blinked, surprised. I'll get you a fresh burger, she said. No need, Darius replied. This one's fine. An old man in the corner said quietly. Ain't never seen anything like that before. Darius didn't respond. He left a few bills under his plate, stood up, and walked to the door. The room stayed silent. Wait, the waitress called. Who are you really? Darius paused, hand on the door. He looked back and said, just a guy who knows how to finish his lunch. Then he walked out, the bell above the door ringing softly as it closed behind him. The bell jingled softly as the door closed behind Darius. Outside, the gravel crunched under his boots as he walked to his truck. The biker who had run earlier just stood there, silent, and moved aside as Darius climbed in. The truck's engine started with a deep rumble, breaking the still air. Darius looked once in the rearview mirror at the diner, then drove off down the empty road. The bikers would recover, but the lesson would stay: never judge a man by how he looks or where he comes from. Sometimes, the quiet ones are the ones you should never test. Inside the diner, no one forgot what happened. The story spread fast. People told their friends and family. Yeah, I was there, someone would say. The guy barely moved, took those bikers apart like it was nothing. The waitress told her version too. I asked him who he was, she'd say, and he told me. Just a guy getting lunch. For the bikers, it was harder. The bruises healed, but their pride didn't. Travis, the loudest one, stayed quiet for weeks. Every time someone brought it up, he'd mutter, forget it. But he couldn't. That day taught them that real strength isn't in being loud. It's in staying calm and in control. Darius didn't care about the stories. To him, it was simple. You treat people with respect, and if someone crosses the line, you handle it. Not with anger, but with control. As he drove down that long stretch of highway, the sun dipped low in the sky. He wasn't thinking about the diner anymore. His mind drifted back to his days as a Navy SEAL, the missions no one knew about, the people he protected without them ever knowing. That was what mattered to him. Not fame, not attention, just doing what was right. A soft tune played on the old radio as he drove. A few miles later, he stopped at a small gas station. Inside, a teenage cashier looked up and asked, "You headed somewhere important?" Darius smiled and said, "Nope, just passing through." The kid looked at him closely. "You military or something?" Darius paused for a moment, then shrugged. "Just a guy getting water." He stepped back outside, climbed into his truck, and drove off again. The cashier watched him go, feeling something he couldn't explain. Respect, maybe. Darius didn't need recognition. His calm strength spoke for itself. A reminder that real power isn't loud. It's quiet, steady, and controlled. Never judge someone by what you think you see. Sometimes, the calmest people are the strongest of all. If this story touched you, share it with someone who needs the reminder. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this. Stories that show what true strength really means.